Okay, with the Munich Major coming up in just under a couple weeks, now is the time that I shall start talking about it. So, today I just want to go over basically kind of what the format of the tournament is and the teams contending. And at the end, I'm also going to tier list a team in a bit of an unconventional way. It's more in terms of teams' potential for this event rather than what I just think they'll end up placing. So, to start, the most important thing about this major is that it's basically the biggest opportunity this year for teams to earn SI points um, outside of the regional qualifiers in December, uh, including the first place position if you win the major, where you just get a direct qualification to SI. So it's very important to do well at this event and get those SI points because there is a chance that, say a team like Team Secret, if they don't do well here, even though they're a team that won the Esports World Cup a few months ago, could just literally not go to SI still. So it's very important to be getting these SI points here. Now for teams, we're just going to go read it like a book. From Europe, we got Falcons, Secret, G2, the usual suspects, and then BDS were like the fourth team this time. If you remember, Esports World Cup had 5 spots for EU and only EU, and Genji got that fifth spot last time. There is not that fifth spot this time, so which Genji did occupy again this stage. So, but because there was no goofy extra team format for EU, Genji are not here, and they didn't really deserve to be here because they are in shambles whenever they're not allowed to execute. That team is in shambles. So again, for Brazil, it's like the usual three suspects: Furia, W7M, FaZe, and then NIP are showing some consistency here now, which is good to see. They've qualified now for back-to-back S tier events, so they're definitely building expectations on them being a more consistent team in Brazil. So now for NA, we have M80 who got first place this time instead of choking, so a much better performance from them. We got SSG and Shopify, pretty expected, and then the big surprise from NA was Dark Zero not being that good this stage. So in place of DZ, we have Wildcard, who have had a pretty solid stage and definitely a kind of a dark horse team at this event, I'd say. And then we have APAC. Now, all the APAC teams had to play a APAC major qualifier where all the top teams from each of the APAC subregions played in a very lengthy, short event, very tiring event to qualify for this event. But I still think we got like the best teams here from that qualifier at the event, which is good at the end of the day. So we kind of have like the two teams that I think everyone expects from APAC to be good, especially for like region years. We got CAG and Weibo, and then we have Enterprise, who are have also similar to NIP qualified to 2 S tier events in a row now, and from Australia. And then we have D plus the Brazilian imports playing in the APAC North region. The big surprise here is Elevate not making it because they also have a full Brazilian import roster of players that everyone considers to be pretty good, even if some would say they are all past their prime for the most part, besides like probably resets. But they were really bad in the playoffs. They crumbled. It was kind of funny to watch. Not gonna lie. Can't lie. It was kind of funny seeing them lose to Daystar, and they lost to Weibo, of course, too. But the Daystar one was like hilarious. Um, anyways, so this the start of the tournament will feature the SOS format, so very standard for majors these days. So 5 rounds of Swiss across 5 days, I'm assuming. They haven't really shown us yet, but I'm assuming that's what it'll be, and I hope this is the way it works. And I wish it could be all best of threes, but it's unrealistic. So to start on days 1 and 2, it's probably just gonna be all best of ones, and then I'm assuming, because this is what it was like at the last major in Montreal, is that the promotion matches and the elimination matches starting on day 3 will be best of threes, and usually day 3 always the longest day, because you got like a bunch of best of threes and a bunch of best of ones all have to be played in that one day, so it's like a very busy day. But it also makes like it very exciting, because since the major's 16 teams instead of 20 now, it makes the competition tighter, which makes it more exciting. But it also means like, you know, it's going to be hard, because I think there's going to be some teams that are not going to make it, that at say maybe EWC did make top 8, like they're probably going to be a different top 8. It's very, very rare you see the same top 8, especially in Siege, at events over and over again. So that's how it's going to work. Basically, you'll see the top 8 teams head to playoffs, and then the bottom 8 teams be eliminated. And then for playoffs, this is the first major ever in Siege. We're not counting SI, because this is like a major, because SI has had the double elim bracket, but this is the first major with a double elim bracket ever. And I'm not exactly sure how the seeding will work from the Swiss stage, but I'm assuming it's going to work like this, where the top 2 teams out of Swiss are going to be placed in these upper bracket finals, one here and one here, and then from 3rd to 6th place teams in Swiss are all going to end up in the upper bracket quarters, and then the last 2 teams, the 7th and 8th teams in Swiss, are going to be in the lower bracket, going to start down here. And then basically, the winners of these will go play the upper semis, and then the winners of those will make the upper final. The winner of that will make the grand final, and then losers of these will go down here, 1 to each. Then winners of these 2 will go here, and then losers of these 2 will go here, and then winner of these 2 will go here. Then whoever wins this will play the loser of the upper bracket final and the lower bracket final for their spot in the final. And of course, whoever wins the final wins the event. So I'm pretty sure that's how that playoffs bracket will work, but I don't actually know the format. But that seems like the smart way to go about it. I don't really see any other like way, really. So now I'm going to talk about my little tier list here. So basically, the way it's going to work is the contender teams are basically all the teams that I think have a chance to win the event. The challenger teams are the teams I think are going to be very competitive this event, but I don't think they're quite yet there at the contender tier to have a chance to win the event yet. And we have the dark horse tier, which is the teams that I think can be competitive on their day, but can also just bomb out. And then the airport team, they're just bombing out, I would think. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, in my opinion. So to start, CAG. Now, CAG, a lot of controversy recently. Whole Black Ray situation. Him being taken off the roster. Now their coach is playing. That's a lot of pressure on the coach to be the coach and be a player. But CAG said, fuck it, we ball, and they won the entire major qualifier, beating out both D plus Kia in the upper bracket, who were running their pockets in the APAC North League. D plus were slamming them. But when it mattered the most, CAG were able to beat them, and they also beat Weibo in the final of that event as well. So They look to be in pretty good form heading into this major. I don't think they're in the challenger tier, but I think if they show up and they play their style, which I think is pretty unique um, compared to all the other regions, I think they can give it to pretty much any team on any given day. So I'm gonna put them in the dark horse to potentially be a competitive tier. Next, we have D plus, the so-called washed-up Brazilian imports. Some might say because they're not good enough to play in Brazil, so they got shipped off to APEC to farm the teams there. Now, because of their recent losses at the major qualifier, has not instilled a lot of confidence in me. They won enough there to be here, but like if they're not even beating CAG, who they were beating, I mean like they can beat CAG, but like if they're not beating them like consistently, I mean like I feel like they're not getting out of that Swiss, bro. And then Enterprise too, like they're the best team from Australia, but I genuinely think like they're probably the worst team at the event. Like they, they were like last place at EWC. Like they can compete. They'll win rounds. Might even win a map or best of one. Best of ones are best of ones. Um, but I don't really see them making out of Swiss. Next, we have FaZe. I mean, everybody knows FaZe. They're at every tournament in Siege. They've been like that for years now. So, yeah, really until they show like a really steep decline. Because really, when it comes to between FaZe, in my opinion, when it comes between FaZe, Furia, and NIP at this stage, they all kind of like trade blows. Like, but Furia did win the SAL stage, but they have that Copa dos South America or whatever. I don't know exactly what they call it, but they have another like B tier tournament in Brazil or South America where all the top tier one teams also play in. Where Furia like took losses to, I can't remember if it was I think they did take a loss to both NIP and FaZe, but anyways, like I said, these teams kind of all trade blows with each other. I think NIP being the least consistent, but I would say like Furia and FaZe like consistently trade blows like constantly. But it does seem Furia are better in the most like intense situations, like in the most important matches. Because like FaZe were able to beat them in like the B tier tournament, of course, but Furia beat them in the SAL league, so in the playoffs, and then same with NIP, where like NIP have been like good in that like B tier league, and they've also been good at Brazil league, but NIP like haven't been able to beat like FaZe or Furia like consistently in the playoffs yet at the in the Brazil league. So Furia are still, so NIP are still like a tiny step beneath them right now. So I'm gonna throw Furia up there too because I've yapped about them, and then NIP will be in like challengers. So like these two definitely have like the potential win, and then NIP will be a good challenger for any team at this event. They will give any team a fucking battle. They will make them work for it. Um, Next we have G2. Now, even though like they didn't have the best like stage performance thing at first like they did last stage, I mean they made the major, which kind of all that really matters. Um, Other players performing better than other players like last stage. Like Blaz has been like stuff in the stat sheet this stage, whereas compared to last stage it was like Loira. Stompman's been pretty consistent. Doki's been fine. Alamao's been doing a good job, like IGLing still. Like the team still like the identity looks really good still, and like the losses they had in EU were to the other teams that like you know that you would consider like really good. They were just still beating everyone else, and I don't think they'll be missing too many beats here at the event, and I have no reason not to say that they're a contender at this event. I mean, they made a grand final in Stompin's first like stage basically. So next we have M80, and I know it's like every time, bro. Every time it's like a different team again, but this is the team that like 80% of this team like has proven that they can actually win a major because they have. And then there's Kino, and then of course they have Fabian now as the coach. So this is M80's first major event, not counting Mickey Mouse Reload. That wasn't a real event. With like Fabian as the coaching staff, and then like the Beast Coast core with Kino. So they definitely woke up the stage. I think this team like they display like really good habits in game, and they play to win, and they have like really good teamwork as well as like friendship in the team, and I think that's really important when it comes to being a winning team. So I also think M80 are contenders. Next year, Shopify. Shopify are like, they're like the team that wants to be a contender, but I don't know if they're there yet. They're not. I don't know if they're quite there. I think they're close, but I don't think I've seen enough from them to consider them like, oh yeah, they have a really good shot at winning this event over so and so teams, over the teams that are in the contender tier right now. Like, yes, they can definitely take maps off those teams, but can they win series against those teams? Because like, yeah, they beat G2 in a best of one at EWC. They made playoffs, but they lost the playoffs there to SSG. But then they also beat SSG in NA Stage 2, so it's like, and then they also lose to SSG in NA Stage 2, so it's very, like, when they're on their day, they're on their day, but if they're not, it can be rough, and especially if Canadian is the guy fragging out, that probably means they're losing, so you don't want to see that if you're a Shopify enjoyer. And I do like this team. They're fun to watch, fun to root for. I mean, most of the teams are fun to root for, honestly, unless like one of the players has got to be like just an absolute asshole to really make me hate like either them or the team, and I don't really think any of the teams really have that at this tournament, at least from an outside perspective. So for now, Shopify are in the challenger tier. They're there, almost. And then SSG as well. They're also a team that I think they're on like the brink of being a contender team, but they like, EWC, they were top 4, or they got 4th. But like they lose, they still can't beat this Furia roster. They cannot win against them. I haven't seen it from them yet. So again, similar to Shopify, like M80 or SSG will beat most teams, but they'll be competitive against these teams. But I haven't seen them like be able to consistently beat any of these teams. So they're also going in the challenger tier. Secret won EWC. They didn't win either European stage, but they won EWC 3-0 final against, and I mean, they were really the underdogs of that final. Everyone was like, G2 was like, ran the Brazilian gauntlet, right? They beat FaZe, they beat NIP, they beat Furia, and everyone's like, oh, you beat all the Brazilian teams? Oh, you're going to win the event. And then they got smoked. So that was a really impressive display from Secret, and they really came back this stage 2. They started off the stage terrible, got smoked by G2 and Falcons, and played a 1 and 2. They were bottom of the standings, and then came back to a second place finish, losing to Falcons in 3 maps in the final. So like, still really good. Mowgli's had a rough stage. He seems like his playstyle is like every team is countering. Like when they play secret, every team is countering to play counterplaying against Mowgli right now. So his stats like look really rough, but like I think he's still effective because like he still creates that space for his team. But instead of him, like at EWC where you just walk in and shoot a bunch of people who weren't even looking at him, basically, or just win every gunfight, because he was just so aggressive. Instead, he's just getting shot down, but he's still making that space for his team. So they found a way to make it work, because that's like one of the big problems they were having at the start of the stage, where Mowgli was just getting like he was dying, and then they were like kind of stuck because they relied so much on it, and in stage 1 at EWC for him to make space while also getting kills while making the space, but they kind of had to change it up a bit now. But they seem to be back in form. And speaking of back in form, we have Falcons. They won the European stage after being good in EUL stage 1, right? They got second, they lost to G2 in the final, but then they got dead last at EWC, I believe. Yeah, it was they definitely went out in last. Now, will that finally reverse the EWC curse? Can they win an event that isn't titled EWC? I kind of hope so, honestly. And especially with like the changes coming in recently, particularly the Solus buff. I know a lot of people already talked about, a lot of people in the scene, the Solus buff and Falcons. And I knew, I remember watching that game that day, and I was like, oh, there's a Solus buff coming out, and and G2 plays him that day, and I was like, bro, Licky Fact's gonna play Solus, and he's gonna run G2 amok, and that is exactly what happened, bro. So yeah, I definitely think the meta is back favoring this Falcons team again, even a little more. Compare like they kind of reminded me of, they're not quite at that level where they were at the Manchester Major, but I think they're getting back to that form, which in my opinion was probably this team's like best performance in a final that year, excluding EWC, because that was still a third-party event. So next we have BDS. They're definitely a dark horse out of the EU teams at this event. They're probably the team that everyone's kind of like counting out. Like they definitely are good. Like I think Virtue's still like very consistent, even though he's like been playing this game forever. He's been through so many teams now, and he seems like Virtue just seems to like, he leaves a team or gets kicked off a team, and then that team hits their peak form, or like hits a really good form, like gets booted out of G2, and then G2's back in good form. Gets booted out of Secret are in really good form after that. They win EWC. Of course, Virtue did win the SI with G2 before he got booted as well, of course. But, this is kind of just a growing team, and they were honestly pretty close to beating G2. In the playoffs in EU, it wasn't a game that really mattered too much outside of like money and potential SI points. Not that one specifically, but like if the team who won that went farther than third place, they would have got more SI points. But G2 did not, so it didn't matter for SI points, but like it didn't matter for money. And of course, a shot at the title, which neither of them got at the end. But they still were not able to beat G2, and it's kind of like similar with the rest of teams this stage. BDS are like, they can put up a good fight, but not a good enough one to beat any of like not just one of the top teams in their region, but realistically any of them. So they're basically, in my opinion, they're a level beneath like any of the top teams from like the big 3 regions, which is like kind of what the dark horse tier is. Next we have W7M, and I can't put them in contender tier because Furia is up here already, and Furia, own them, even though they're really good. Like if Furia weren't up here, I literally if Furia didn't exist, bro, I put them in contender tier. But Furia are 7-0 against to be 7M, this year, or is it? I don't know if it's all time, but like there's a stat. There's 7-0 against them in their most recent matches. It is rough out there. Furia literally owned them. Outside of that, though, they're a really good team, who can give any of these teams a really good fight and potentially beat them. But they're kind of like, the rest of the teams in the Challenger tier yet. They're not quite a contender, in my opinion. And then next we have Weibo. They're a hard one because I honestly feel like they're kind of like middling here, where they're like Challenger and Dark Horse. But I think like I kind of have to put them in Dark Horse because they're like, right now, from what I've seen from them, they're kind of either at the level of CAG or a little below CAG or a little above CAG, depending on the day. Like CAG beat them in Australia at the qualifier land, the major qualifier land, and Weibo can also beat CAG on any given day, in my opinion. But sometimes I feel like Weibo's the way they play, it's better for like playing the teams that are not from their region. Like they play better. Like I genuinely think like if they didn't play that red hot secret at the EWC, they could have had a shot at that top four instead of going out top 8. So like this is a team that we know they can make a top 8, like a playoffs at a big event. But it's not like it doesn't happen consistently. So I'm gonna stick them in the Dark Horse tier. And then same with Wildcard here. I'm also gonna stick them in the Dark Horse tier. Now, for the most part, outside I think the playoffs this stage, Wildcard have kind of owned SSG. They kind of have they had a pretty big win streak against them until the stage 2 playoffs. And they can compete with any of the NA teams here, but I don't know about any of the other top teams like from the Challenger contender tier. I think they'll put up a good fight, kind of like similar to the rest of the teams, or have the potential to put up a good fight, but also have the potential to, bomb out. That's kind of the Dark Horse tier in a nutshell. Like, could be good, could be bad. You never really know until it happens. So, right? Like they could put up a run like they did at Mickey Mouse Reload. Now, again, of course, it was Reload. We had CAG in the final, and the wild card were top 4, and like that shit was crazy. Elevate made like top 8 too at that like fraud run. Holy shit, biggest fraud run in CG sports history. How did they get to playoffs? Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the event, the teams heading in. I'm excited for day 1. It's going to be hype. I'm excited really for the whole tournament because it's the only major of the year. So a lot of stakes at this event because this event is going to not completely determine, but certainly push a lot of teams either towards SI qualification or away. Because like the teams that, in my opinion, make top 8 of this event have like really strong chance of making SI. Of course, the winner goes right to it. But the teams who don't do well here, and if they don't do well in their regional finals, could just like not go to SI, right? So it'd be rough. But yeah, anyways, that's, like I said earlier, that's kind of my thoughts on the major and the teams heading into the major. And I'll probably be back for another video if like Ubisoft releases like predictions before the major. I'm assuming they will. So I just don't know when that's going to happen. But yeah, until then, if you watch to the end, thank you and have a good one.